Hi, my name is Yusuf and I will be speaking on behalf of my group members Brandon, Mudassar, and Hamza. This presentation aims to inform on the topic of alternative authentication methods and give a general recommendation on achievable solutions for organization today. Introduction to passwords and authentication. According to the former cryptographer Robert Morris, the three golden rules to ensure computer security are do not own a computer, do not power it on, and do not use it. This quote cannot be feasibly followed, as in reality security must be balanced with the business objectives of an organization. This means that organizations must compromise having complete security in order to operate. Albeit, operating an organization inevitably will always result in some risk. There are methods implemented to minimize it. One of the most common forms of information security, measures and practices put in place to protect one's data, is passwords. The history of passwords extends far back into humanity's history. For example, the Roman military utilizing passwords to differentiate between enemies and allies. The modern password can be traced back to 1961 when the Massachusetts Institute of Technology released a compatible time-sharing system. The CTSS featured a login command which needed a user's password so they could access their own files. It was Fernando Corbato's idea. The importance of passwords in the day-to-day operations of this world is undeniable. Passwords help ensure different information security characteristics, such as confidentiality. Unauthorized users have their access to classified information restricted when they are unable to access the account because of the login stage. Also, authentication is delivered through the use of passwords, as after someone identifies as a specific identity, their claim can be verified through the use of a password, passphrase, or other secure identifiable information. Several authentication factors which may be used: something a user knows, such as a password or passphrase; something a user has, such as dumb cards or smart cards; or something a user is, such as their own unique characteristics. User authentication is a crucial part of any business or organization, and passwords have long been used to deliver that functionality. The use of traditional text passwords comes with its flaws, and alternatives should be examined. This report will address the shortcomings of text passwords and some viable replacements. The overview. This presentation will cover the flaws of passwords, benefits of passwordless authentication, alternative authentication methods such as two-step authentication, facial recognition, eyes, fingers, and heart, and graphical passwords. After that, conclusions and a general recommendation will be made. The flaws of passwords. Today, the use of passwords could pose a threat to the confidentiality of user information. It is common now to hear cases in which passwords are stolen or hacked, making passwords a larger part of the problem instead of the solution to keep user information safe. Verizon conducted an investigation in 2016 and found that exploitation of weak passwords led to 81% of all hacking-related data breaches. Weak passwords make a hacker's job easier, however, users are faced with the burden of having to remember and manage all their login information. Telesign carried out a survey in 2016 of around 1,300 people on their password habits, and the results showed that 70% use the same password for multiple accounts, and 46% have passwords that are 5 years or older. With the inconvenient requirements of secure account passwords pushing users towards unsafe habits and increasing capabilities of modern hardware and software available to hackers, it is an appropriate time to reach out and implement superior alternatives to the conventional password system. The benefits of using passwordless authentication. There are many benefits of using passwordless authentication that make it superior to that of the regular password system. They automatically remove the factor of the user choosing an unsafe password, as it has to create the pass token for the user rather than the user creating a pass token for themselves, for example when using biometric system. Methods such as using biometrics are difficult and less likely to be hacked by fraudulent users. Furthermore, customer satisfaction is improved as scanning the user's physical characteristics and processing this data at computer speeds are much faster processed. A recent study found that 60% of people leave their online shopping carts before completing their transaction. This is due to the long forms with too many complex processes and the requirement to create an account. Most customers do not want to spend time on any of this and want to get straight to why they came to the site. Passwordless authentication methods can satisfy the need for convenience and security all at the same time and can bring back satisfied users in the future, making them regular customers. This graph shows some forecasted statistics showing the use of username and password authentication systems versus passwordless authentication systems. Two-step authentication. The name of the method is a parallel of functionality. For a user to get access, they must go through two steps to prove they are who they say they are. Instead of being an alternative, two-step authentication is more of a security booster. In an article posted on OpenMind, two-step authentication is described as a double check, something you know, the password, with something you are or something you have. For example, Google account holders have the option to enable this authentication method. If enabled after the user enters their username and password, this being the something you know, they are required to go on their phone as a message requiring their validation pops up, this being the something you have. This boosts the security tremendously as only the holder of the phone can verify the authentication process. However, this is not always the case. As long as the user has to go through two steps to verify their identity, whatever those two steps are, this will boost the security of that account by 100%. Two-step authentication may seem like an ideal solution, but it does have its downfalls. Depending on the second step, security may be compromised. For example, some require the second step to be answering a security question. However, the answers of these questions are personal and can be found on public records, thus leading to the conclusion that the stronger the second step, the stronger the entire process. Facial recognition. One of the newer up-and-coming authentication methods is facial recognition. It has been used in new phones like the iPhone X and Samsung Galaxy S9 and has been a huge success. Every face has unique and distinct landmarks, or in professional terms, nodal points. Some of these nodal points measured by the software are distance between eyes, width of the nose, depth of the eye sockets, and the shape of the cheekbones. Certain softwares compare different nodal points combined with some algorithms, making them all different. Because of this, some facial recognition softwares may be better than others. New developments to this authentication method are still being made and making it more and more secure. For example, Index uses skin biometrics to enhance the accuracy of the facial recognition software. It can measure any lines, pores, and the actual texture of the skin, making the facial recognition software 20 to 25% more accurate. A strong software combined with all the new innovations and strong algorithms can make every face unique and match the user without any glitches. However, a weak software has a lot more room for error, like lighting, similar features, growing a beard, or having glasses can all play a part in creating glitches. All these can be avoided with having a stronger software, even in identical twins. Eyes, fingers, and hearts. Fingerprint and iris scanning for identity verification were a long-awaited security feature. Their ability to provide non-repudiation makes them a great method for authentication, and their ease makes them extremely versatile. Not to mention, it is harder to lose a body part than to lose a text-based password. As great of an achievement for security these forms of biometric passwords were, they do have some pitfalls. Although not two fingerprints or iris prints are alike, there is such a problem as the plugged eyeball problem that researchers have to watch out for. On the topic of biometric passwords, an unusual form of authentication has arisen. The human heart and the signals it gives off could in fact be used to verify your identity in the near future. Most people are perplexed by the idea and question the viability as heartbeats have a variable speed and there does not seem to be any measurable and unique signatures given off by each individual heart. However, while it is true that all hearts function in a similar way, each heart gives off an ECG signal based off the shape of that person's heart. This is huge, not only for the security industry, but also for the health industry, which can use ECG from heart monitors to securely pass patient data from implemented seniors to health practitioners. This also leads the way to other biometric passwords which are resistant to being stolen, such as brainwaves. For obvious reasons, we can be sure to expect such changes over the next couple of years. Like all revolutionary technology methods, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done to make this mode of encryption into a usable solution. ECGs can be slightly altered by age, extreme stress, mood changes, highly intense physical activity, or illness. Nonetheless, researchers say that with the help of mathematics, they will most likely be able to circumvent these issues. Graphical passwords. One alternative form of authentication is graphical passwords. Unlike some of the other authentication methods, such as fingerprint scanning, graphical passwords do not diverge too far away from the idea of passwords. Graphical passwords require users to select a series of ordered images or icons from a menu of several options. One benefit this form of authentication provides is it can be easier for most individuals to remember as opposed to a text password. A jumble of random characters used for a text password can be more difficult to recall than a series of multiple images which depict actual objects with meanings, such as a house, a plate, or a bicycle. The difficulty of remembering a random text password can lead to the user settling for a simpler password filled with dictionary words. However, using graphical passwords means that the user may be able to remember a more complicated password. Studies based on image authentication technique found that although 90% of their subjects logged in successfully using the technique versus 70% of those using pins and text passwords, logging in with graphical passwords takes much longer. Regarding the discrepancy in time, it may be attributed to the fact that with a text password or PIN, one must rely on their own memory, whereas the graphical password, one must wait for the images to load, then look through them. Also, the images require more space, and as such, loading them in results in a longer delay and a greater load on the server. Due to the greater duration of time needed to log in, the user experience is in one way worsened from the use of graphical passwords. Many businesses who generate revenue from customers purchasing items through their platform or website are adversely affected by the lack of an expedited checkout process, as highlighted in a previous section. Having a potentially larger password space and the delay while entering a graphical password is a benefit in that it can deter or mitigate brute force attacks, dictionary attacks, and more. Additionally, graphical passwords can be implemented through the software and do not require any hardware changes on the client or customer side. This method can prove less costly in terms of hardware, but of course it still requires some setup and support to transition to this method. Overall, the graphical password is an alternative authentication method which helps to alleviate the problem of remembering passwords, though it results in a delayed login process and still requires some memory to avoid having the simplest password. Conclusion. In conclusion, we propose that a business should avoid the use of traditional text passwords and instead diversify their authentication methods for both their employees and clients. One of the ways they can accomplish this is through different methods of identity verification. In general, we believe that a business should attempt to implement multi-factor verification for maximum data protection, but also limit the amount of methods to two for the ease of use of their users. We realize that in the world of business and commerce, some password solutions are not easily sensible to implement on the customer, but there are other ways in which corporations can fortify their defenses by requiring employees and other staff to verify themselves in the most secure manner as a minor inconvenience when accessing any sensitive material. We will ensure minimum data loss. For a company's internal security, we could recommend different solutions based on an organization's size budget. For example, a larger corporation with more funds can implement a strong facial recognition system. Notably, organizations lacking funds should not settle for a weaker facial recognition software, as this can create unnecessary vulnerability. For a robust facial recognition could instead utilize the fingerprint reading technology. A business can supply their employees with smartphones with fingerprint scanners, which they can use to verify any login process. The two-factor authentication method can be augmented by requiring employees to unlock their device using their fingerprint reader after their initial login. Ultimately, there is no one-size-fits-all recommendation for all organizations. One must determine the best solution to their needs based upon many factors such as their business objectives, budget, and more.